Well, hello and welcome to Crappy Hour. I'm Ronnie and that's Ben over there. Hello, little
Hi.
angel Gingos.
Hello, Ronnie. How are you doing today?
Good. Everybody, welcome. This is our Instagram live show every other Monday at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time over on Instagram, which it is now for Ben. It's 5:30 Pacific, 5:33 to be exact.
Yes.
And here we go. Just a little Bravo goss. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, I have to say, I have to share a really cute little story. So I don't know, have I mentioned on the show how much I love the poster for Southern Charm or the key art for this season? Have we talked about that?
No, I don't think so.
Do you know what I'm talking about, this key
Yeah.
art? So
It looks like an old movie poster. It's like
Yeah.
Chinatown, but for Southern charm.
It's got like a pink, almost like sunset background, and the whole cast is almost like illustrated on it. It's like it looks almost like a retro, like book from the '80s or something like that. I just
Yeah.
love this poster. I've been obsessed with it. So on Saturday night, I mentioned earlier to you, Ronnie, I actually went out to a bar, and I really did not want to go out. I was really tired, but a friend was in town, so we decided to go out. And we're at the bar, and I was wearing kind of a funky shirt because, why not? And while I was standing there, someone tapped me on the shoulder. I was like, oh, I really like your shirt. So I started talking, and it was a guy and a girl. I could just already tell the girl was my people, and the guy seemed nice too, but the girl was definitely my people. So we started chatting, and we just were like hit it off. And, I mentioned I'm a podcaster, and they're like, oh, what do you podcast about? I said, about Bravo TV. They're like, what's your podcast? Watch What Crappens. And the girl, she says, oh, that's funny. I make posters for Bravo. I was like, really? And she was the one who made the Southern Charm key art. And I literally
wow.
fanned out about it. I was like, oh my God, you don't understand. I love the Southern Charm poster. She also did Real Housewives of Miami. And I literally fangirled over the graphic designer who made the Southern Charm art. So that was my fun
Well,
little
she should
story.
do one for us. I want one where we look like we're in Star Wars because that's kind of what it is, right? Where they're like kind of painted on there.
Oh my
I
God,
love
that's such a
that.
good idea. Well, we became friends on Instagram. So let me build
that's
some friendship
basically-
capital before I say, can
basically
you do
what you
some
need.
pro bono work?
All right. Well, that's pretty cool. That's a cool person
Yeah.
to meet. I met a guy at Home Goods that was talking to himself and not to me. What do you think of that? I was like, I was just talking back to him. It turns out he was talking to himself. So that was awkward. So that was my exciting meeting. That is
Okay.
the difference between living where you live and living living where I live. I
get it.
think sometimes. But just as exciting. I bet it was just as nerve-wracking for the both of us.
There probably was equal amounts of stammering and excitement.
Yeah, this guy was really angry about his mom, which I mean, I got it. I could get it. He was like talking meanly about his mom and how she doesn't give him any control. As we were looking at picture frames. So, okay, so here we go with some crappy hour stuff. So why don't we just, what do you want to start with? There's so much. There's a lot on our list. As usual with Bravo News, there's so much, and yet so much silly things. Sharpay head. This is me concentrating. This is my Sharpay thinking.
Yes.
What should we
and
start with?
Well, I think we should just get this one out of the way because I know this is something that I think people have passing interest in. It's like fun, it's funny, but it's not a major thing. But the Anne Marie Esophagate situation is so silly, and the fact that it continues to escalate is remarkable to me. So the big thing that happened at the end of last week was that I believe it's the American Society of Anesthesiologists. Am I getting that correct? It's the American Society of Anesthesiologists. They released an infographic. I didn't even know there was an American Society of Anesthesiologists, but they released an infographic. And it has two columns. One is like anesthesiologists and one's say nurse anesthetists. And it's showing the differences between them. By the way, I have like Invisalign in my mouth. So if I sound wacky, that's because of that. So anesthesiologists must complete medical school. Nurse anesthetists do not complete medical school. And it goes back and forth with stuff like this. It's basically them saying step back, stop making claims about esophaguses. And then the caption says, the Real Housewives know a fake Anesthesiologists are medical doctors with more than 12 years of higher education and up to 16,000 hours of clinical training. Title misappropriation has no place in healthcare. Also, I would argue healthcare has no place on the Real Housewives. So there's that.
Yeah, listen, I think Anne Marie's kind of an asshole. Well, a total asshole. Like, let's face it. All you need to do is listen to 5 minutes of one recap to know what I think of Anne Marie. But what are you doing, you guys? You should have more respect for yourselves than to come on and make a Housewives post about this, especially when she did not claim. They're misquoting. They're making a Housewives mistake, and it's a Housewives mistake that Anne Marie herself is making this season, where she's telling you what you're saying, and it's not correct. She didn't say that she was an anesthesiologist versus nurse anesthetist. That is what Crystal accused her of. Right. But so far, we don't have any proof of that. We have no idea. And then what Anne-Marie is doing is she's going and saying, oh, my God, Crystal is degrading my career, which is also false. She did not degrade your career. She called you a fucking liar. Okay, that's what she did. So if you're going to argue about it, then at least get it right. I mean, this is really a Housewives fight, but now it's turned to the Society of Anesthesiologists. And like you said, we didn't even know they were a society before. That's how secret this Fight Club was. They kept it fucking secret, like you should a Fight Club. And now we all know they've blown their cover for what? Are you proud of yourselves?
Well, Anna Marie had two things that she had said on Instagram.
Oh, wait. Someone just said here, and I love comments. In the after show, Anne-Marie said she could call herself an anesthesiologist. Okay, well, then that's the other point, because she doesn't make this better for herself, does she? Every time you try and stick up for this lady, she just digs herself another hole. Okay, I can't stand up for that. I can't even try to defend that for fun, Ben. Okay, sorry to interrupt you. Please carry on.
I wouldn't even, Ronnie, I don't even want you to defend it for fun. But
it's fun. It's like debate class. Let's find a horrible human being to defend just for fun.
So she had two stories. I'm going to read the one that seems more lighthearted first before her official response. So I don't know the timeline of these, unfortunately, because I'm reading these off of the Best of Bravo. I mean, they were everywhere. But Anne-Marie had posted a story that said, the esophagus storyline was not funny. Watching the show back now, I hate that storyline just as much as everyone else. I would be mad at me too. It was a line of questioning I should never have started, and for that I sincerely apologize. That storyline was unauthentically dragged on for far too long, and I have been dragged through the mud in the process. I just want to highlight the real in reality TV. Prayer hands, heart.
Well, this is so her too, this part. I do not condone the ASA's defamation campaign. I'm a CRNA, a certified registered nurse anesthetist, and I'm 8.5 at it, by the way, according to my husband. I'm extremely proud of my profession, and I will not be accused of title misappropriation because a castmate needed a storyline on a reality TV show. This is my real life and my career. Then goes on the after show and says, but I could be an anesthesiologist. But she's trying to turn this into defamation. We're only going off what you say. Are you really going to come on here and say you hate the storyline and everybody made you do it? They just put together 4 hours of you complaining about Sutton's esophagus. What's it, 2 hours or 4 hours? Whatever that was.
It was 2 hours, but it was already done, and she brought it back during a really depressing party.
During a suicide memorial.
It was a suicide memorial celebration of life, and she's bringing this up. And then she also says here, political issues exist between physician anesthesiologists and CRNAs, which explains their current attack on me and the CRNA profession. So now, not only on top of everything else, this is just the latest shots fired across the battlefield between these two warring groups. I need them to do a West Side Story thing.
Yes. And I think there is a thing in nursing where nurses are treated like crap or looked down on by doctors or whatever. You're just a nurse. And that's not cool. And that's
not most people, but there are people who do that too.
Yeah. And that's pretty, well known. And you don't come for nurses. But I don't think people are. I think she's trying to make it that because, she'll get more points. She'll get more internet points for it or whatever. She's trying to rally people into coming to stand up for her. But so far, nobody's dissing nurses. Okay. It's you keeping an esophagus thing going? And also, what's your defense for coming on national TV and suggesting someone has an eating disorder and trying to like talk about, their inappropriate taking of prescription drugs, which by the way, you can take the gabapentin or whatever with alcohol. We've mentioned all this stuff before, but just to review. I don't know, this lady. I don't know why I'm even getting worked up over it. It's the dumbest storyline in the world. And I'm like, and you better listen to me about gabapentin.
God, by the way, I love saying gabapentin. That's like my new favorite thing to say, gabapentin. The other thing, also, I just feel like if Anne-Marie, if she's just going to go down this path of saying, well, she's got a small esophagus because she's got an eating disorder, I almost wish she would just outright say it rather than like, sort of suggest it in a clunky way, and then act as if Crystal was the one who brought this up. I mean, that's the craziest part of this all. She's like, I never said eating disorder. Crystal's the one who said that. I never even said anything about an esophagus. Crystal said esophagus. I don't even know what anesthesiology even is. It's like, what are you, like, you can't do that. Like, we are watching you. We are watching you on TV.
Yeah, ma'am, I'm sorry, but as a non-doctor, I have to diagnose you with Legion lies disease. Okay, you're a lie face. So please just stop. Yeah, just stop. So what else do we have on here today? And also, your husband's accused of some really terrible things. If you guys want to find that out, Google it because that's pretty interesting too. So just go, please. Okay, so then we have oh God, something else gross before we get into Rodrigo. Okay. So the Southern Charm final reunion just aired. Rodrigo came on. He made like a 5-minute appearance maybe. And in that time, lit the internet on fire. Okay. On this show, I thought he was a bit much. Ben was like, finally, Rodrigo did something. Hurrah. I think is our general
I liked his
recap.
facial expressions. I liked he was like, I liked that. It was funny.
Well, he set the internet on fire. People were furious with this guy. And I thought, look, I did not love his energy. Okay. I said that in the recap. I didn't love it. I think it was too thirsty. It was like coming out of nowhere. To me, it looked like something else had happened in the world for him to be that upset with Olivia. It seemed like too much anger towards Olivia too quickly. I didn't really get it. People online have been freaking out. I mean, to the point where it's like Rodrigo was hateful and misogynistic to Olivia. I didn't see him being hateful, so I was like, what is this? Well, guess what this idiot did? Okay, so he was on his Instagram. This was somewhere I found, guess where? From Reddit. That's my education. Thank you, Reddit. Thank you, College of Reddit. They leaked his DMs. He apparently got pissed off on someone who made a comment. Okay. And he says, how dare you have the nerve to say I have no life? Ha ha ha. And she says, I didn't call you outside your name. Don't be bothered. And he says, just like Olivia, when I see a C word, I call it out. And uses the full on word. When I see a Cut Fitness, I call it out. And she says, you're a disgusting human being. He says, again, bothered is coming to my page to play victim. And she says, you're so full of hate, so sad. See, I'm not offended because what you're saying isn't true. Why are you so bothered? And he said, sad, delusional, pathetic, Mandy, the Cut Fitness. She says, who is Mandy? My name, since you can't read, is Mandolin. And he says, zoom, pop. And he says, thanks a nice day, Cut Fitness. Thanks for the laughs. You're a pig. You're fucking disgusting. Who does that? Go away. I'm sorry I ever had 2 seconds of being nice to you on this. What the fuck is wrong with you, sir?
Yeah, it's a bit over the top and rude and, offensive to women.
A bit. I mean, also, we need to get consensus on the C word. Okay, the C word's back, but it's not back like this, like calling someone a straight up Cut Fitness. The drag culture has made it like a fun thing, I think, because they got so sick of probably being called out on it. They changed it to mean like, what does it mean? I forget.
Well, I think that like right now it's just there are definitely a lot of gay men right now who are saying Cut Fitness-y, like it's using it as an adjective. And like it's like all over the place. But the thing is it's like it was inevitable that if it gets used a lot like that, people are going to start just sort of saying it. And you got to be careful when you say it because it's like highly, highly offensive to large swaths of people. And Rodrigo can't do the whole thing of like, well, in London, I'm from London, because British people do that.
This is from Drag Race, right? This is what I learned, that it's from Drag Race, that they took that word and they turned it to mean charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. So in the drag culture, apparently, yes, it's used as, oh, I didn't tell you this? This is, you see what you learned from having a podcast.
I guarantee
someone
Rodrigo,
explained it to me.
I guarantee Rodrigo was not saying charisma, uniqueness, whatever it was.
No, he wasn't saying it cut fitness. He wasn't saying it that way. He was calling her a cut fitness. That's different.
Right.
When you say somebody, is cut fitnessy, I guess, charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent, which is a very creative way of still getting to use that word. But anyway, he didn't mean it that way. He's just disgusting. So you're fucking gross, and we should have known. And this is also kind of the problem of just even putting, I don't even want to. He's gross. I don't need to get myself all worked up. I'm already worked up about gabapentin. Okay.
I don't know what gabapentin does, but I feel like one of us needs to take it right now. And I don't know which one of us does, but one of us does.
So someone says the C word is not a slur, it's vulgar. I don't get what do you mean? Aren't those both bad? It's not a slur.
I guess vulgar is just like a vulgar, I think slurs are vulgar, but all vulgarities are not necessarily slurs.
It's a slur when a man's calling a woman that, right? I mean, listen, we used to use that word all the time on this show because it was 12 years ago and it was more casual, kind of like it is now. Like we see how words come in and out of fashion. That one definitely went out and we stopped. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to be a total hypocrite and be like, what, the C word? I've never said that in my life. It used to be in casual conversation a lot more. It's not now. That was 10 years, 12 years ago. Okay, stop, sir. You stop, sir. Yeah. Take your gabapentin with a glass of wine and take a nap.
I mean, ultimately, I'm not gonna sit here and make a distinction of like, is it a slur? Is it not a slur? Is it vulgarity? Because ultimately, this is a word that is used against women, and so I'm not gonna like. I'm not a woman.
No.
I'm not a woman,
sir.
so I'm not ultimately going to sit here and be like, let me, as a man, explain how this word is used for
Let's
women.
explain the C word to people, okay?
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. But what we do know is that it's offensive to large amounts of American women. So I will just, use that as the lead, as my barometer.
Yeah, anyway, you're gross. Hope you're not back, sir. Okay, so then we go to Kyle Richards goes ring shopping with friend Morgan Wade after birthday getaway without Mauricio. So, they went to Tiffany's, and of course, there were paparazzi there because that's what happens when Kyle goes anywhere. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy how that keeps happening? Weird.
Yeah, and they, of course, are like twinning, basically. They are wearing the two very close friends, twinned in black puffer coats, which... To be fair, I think in the winter, if two people are wearing black puffer coats, it's not necessarily twinning. I think that's like a very standard, generic look. Although, then again, I'm going to walk that back. I'm going to take some gabapentin and walk that back because Morgan probably came out wearing the black puffer and Kyle was like, oh my God, hold on, let me get my black puffer. So, yeah.
Well, Morgan's wearing one of those rainbow puffers. I forget what store it's from. They're very nice and very fancy. They're like fancy
Marine Layer?
Yes, it's Marine Layer. Yes, God, you're good.
I just saw
fashion, eh?
No, because I once went into a Marine Layer in Austin. So when
that's where I saw it. I was just there, and I saw this jacket, and I was like, "This is cute." And then I looked at the price, and I was like,
$5,000.
No, you should give this free. You should give the rainbow free to the gay person. Marine Layer.
You know what I want? Like instead of Marine Layer, I'll get Smog. I'll get the knockoff brand Smog.
But Kyle did show up on Real Housewives with Morgan's hair and face. So, yeah, she is trying to do the twinning thing. I don't really care about that. I just thought it was funny. It's like, of course, Kyle. It's like, let's try and get people watching the show. Let's go ring shopping and have the paparazzi take a picture. It's like, oh, poor thing. And still nobody really cares. Nobody's asking,
So Kyle and Morgan Wade apparently went on a warm weather getaway to Punta Mita, Mexico. Now that makes sense because
Punta Mita, babe.
That's where you want to go. You just can't ignore it. Wait a second. Did we forget to nominate Ladies and Gentlemen Berlin for Best Quote of the Year? Gosh darn it. I just
Ladies
realized.
and gentlemen,
Berlin. Punta Mita, that's where you want to go. So they went to Punta Mita together, and now they're doing this. They're buying rings. Wait, hold on. I'm a little triggered by something, Ronnie. I'm reading this article. Wishing you a very happy birthday at Kyle Richards 18, Omansky wrote on Instagram, alongside a throwback clip of Richards dancing to Carly Rae Jepsen's Call Me Maybe. Do we have to bring Carly Rae Jepsen into this? I don't appreciate that.
Okay, poor Carly Rae. Ben will always stand up for his little Carly Rae.
I know. I don't
Rae
want to drag
Jepsen.
into Kyle's desultory, lame scandal.
All right, so I know that everybody's dying because we're not talking about Monica from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. It just continues to it just continues to go and go with this chick. When we think we've seen everything on the reunion, then we find out that not only did she have cameras installed in Jen's office, but also her home, and she had all the passwords and everything because she's the one who had everything installed. So the creep factor just keeps going through the roof. And news on what's going on with her, she's had a couple of pretty defensive things on the internet, which have been fun. One is hate me or love me. Do you have this one up, Ben? This is a Kobe Bryant quote. So Kobe Bryant has a
Is this
quote.
on the photos?
Yeah. She has a Kobe Bryant quote up that says, hate me or love me, it's one or the other, always has been. Hate my game, my swagger. Hate my fadeaway, my hunger. Hate that I'm a veteran, a champion. Hate that. Hate it with all your heart. And hate that I'm loved for the exact same reasons. Kobe Bryant. And then she does her version. Hate that I'm a troll, broke, single, divorced, cheated, excommunicated. Okay, first of all, the grammar there. I'm very confused on what you're trying to say because grammatically this is terrible. Okay, do you have anybody over there helping you?
Hate that I'm childish, loud, girl, was an assistant. Hate that I was a fan, played the game, got on the show, ran a snark page, went to the FBI. Hate that I infiltrated a group of elitists.
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. You infiltrated the global elite. I like that she's going to bring QAnon wording into this.
What?
I hear your dog whistle, man. Okay.
Watch out, Shaquille O'Neal. She's about to infiltrate the 1%. And then, hate it with your heart, girl. Hate that I'm loved for the exact same reasons. Okay, I don't know. It doesn't have the same impact to me as Kobe Bryant's thing, because he's like talking like. What's funny is that in his quote, when he says, "Hate my game, my swagger, my fadeaway, my hunger. Hate that I'm a veteran, a champion." Like those are like he's saying. Like, look at all these things that I've achieved, and like you're gonna hate me for it. Where she's like, hate that I'm broke and single and divorced, and went to the FBI, had a snark page. It just doesn't have the same gravitas.
She's mixing a lot of victim language with stuff that's supposed to make her a badass queen icon. Like she's mixing troll, which is supposed to make her cool, I guess. Broke, poor, single, divorced, which is the victim. Then the cheated, excommunicated victim. Hate that I'm childish, loud, was an assistant. That's like my set, hate victim things. Hate that I was a fan, played the game, got on the show. Hero things, icon things, ran a snark page, went to the FBI. I've turned the tables. I've Edward Snowden himself. Like, calm down over there. Infiltrated a group of elitists has to be my favorite. You're a real Mr. Robot over there. Okay, Monica?
Real salt burn going on over there.
But, might I add, endlessly entertaining as well.
I mean, that being said, everything she says is true.
Still
Just
love
not as good as Kobe. It's interesting. So the Hollywood Reporter, do you want to talk about this thing, the Hollywood Reporter thing? Hollywood Reporter had an article a few days ago where they talked to the showrunners of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And they talk about Monica, and they insist that they had no idea that Monica had this account. They said they did a background check, but like burner accounts just don't show up on background checks. And the reporters asked, like, hey, is this something you're going to be like screening for in the future. And they're like, well, there's just no way to screen for it. But I'm like, well, why don't you build in a clause that says something like, you're not allowed to have burner accounts, and if you do, you get fined.
Well, they probably should not do that. I mean, I feel like the Housewives economy runs on burner accounts, and I feel like they're responsible for most Reddit posts, which gives me my full entertainment value for the week. So I don't like that. I will say I don't believe these producers for 2 seconds. First of all, I'm no dummy. I've been watching reality TV for a very long time, and I know you're fucking liars. And whenever somebody says, but the producer said it, guys, they literally lie to you for a living. They re-edit things. They string us along for a living. And do you believe this really? Okay, I didn't know any of this. Lori called the network after that Bermuda weekend. It was just gushing about it. I just didn't even understand it. Then Lori says, the way Heather found out that day, it was such a rush and it was so sudden. We know that Heather didn't find out that day. She says that she knew before and that she just got confirmation that day. Tanisha's been working for her for a long time. This is not something that just all happened within that 5 minutes. You guys are fucking liars, okay? Now, with that said, you're also doing a fantastic job. So keep lying to me. But whoever this deep throat thinks they are over here, not buying it. No, ma'am, as Sutton would say. No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. The producers also really hedge about whether or not Monica's going to come back. They're like, Lisa, Lori, and I have had about 7,000 conversations about that, and we'll probably have a few hundred more. I'm like, please stop paraphrasing the Family Ties theme song first and foremost. I bet we have been together for a million years. But they're like, well, on the one hand, like she has this, like, we like that she's like represents a different kind of Salt Lake City personality, like poor. And we also like that, like, she's different from the other women. But on the other hand, there's like the deception and there's the relationship with other cast members. It's a complicated puzzle. But then from a rating standpoint, be great to find a way to have her come back. But it's just a really challenging situation. I'm like, so you're still working on convincing Heather. You're working on convincing Heather and Meredith to let her back.
Well, Heather is not going anywhere. I think everybody knows that. Okay, none of those OGs are going to be quitting this show over Monica. They will show up, they will band together, and they will make the mistake that every person on a reality show makes, where they think, I can control this. She can't make me look stupid if I don't let her. Which is, you guys should know better by now, because this is season 4 or some shit? Like, come on. But housewives don't learn, and reality people in general don't learn. Thank God. So if they're really hemming and hawing this much, of course she's going to come back. Like, there's no doubt.
I think so. I think, though, the producers are in a little bit of a tricky situation, because if they truly did not know about this, then I had a really good point. I love when this happens, especially on a live show. If the producers didn't know about this, then the producers were deceived. And it sets a bad precedent that cast members are allowed to actively deceive the producers and get away with it. If they did know about it, it sends a bad precedent that the producers would allow someone on one of these shows that has like a burner account making fun of other cast members. That's like, does not make cast members feel safe. So they're in a tricky situation that they definitely have to manage, their relationship with the cast members at this point.
I don't know that these people give a shit about their cast safety. This is Real Housewives, and B, it's Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. They've had Jen Shaw on for 3 years. And she was literally abusive and terrible. Horrible. I mean, the stuff that we saw on her that was leaked by Monica and her cohorts was just more of what we'd already seen, and the way that she had treated people on the show to cameras for 3 years. Like, everybody had already seen this stuff. She's a fucking monster, and she would get physical with people. And she was completely fucking unhinged and dangerous, and DMing all of these bloggers and blah, 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 blah. And they didn't give a shit. They don't care. So they're not really here giving a shit about anybody's safety. And Essie on YouTube is saying, burner accounts help produce the storylines. Damn right. Listen, how else is Lisa Vanderpump supposed to work? Let the woman live.
That's true. Speaking of on YouTube, Irene asks, you think Angie K is returning? I think so, because I just feel like the season was so good. I don't think Bravo wants to meddle with this chemistry more than they have to. If they have to get rid of Monica, I don't see them getting rid of Angie K too. I think they're going to try to keep as much of this cast intact.
Yeah, I
as they
agree.
can.
I think they'll probably add maybe one other person or another friend of. I don't think we'll see Mary back.
Speaking of Mary, I'm not sure if she'll be back or not. One thing that came out of this interview that was really interesting is that the origins of the show, on the reunion, Lisa Barlow was like, yeah, I was the one who got like Bravo interested in us. So like, I'm the one who basically made the show. But the producers actually revealed that the show was originally supposed to be about Mary. They'd gotten a tip about Mary, that she was this great character and she has this audience. And they came out to Salt Lake City to meet her. But in the process, they started meeting the rest of the cast. And they're like, whoa, this is wild what's happening here. And one of the stories is that they went out to drinks with the cast. And then after they left, the producers left and the cast stayed at the bar. And then they got into a brawl or something and someone got kicked out of the bar. And the producers heard about it and were like, oh my God, they're Real Housewives before they were even on the show.
Right.
So
they
Mary
were doing
is the
that
origin
without
story.
the cameras even there. Well, it's interesting because Lisa said that, and also Heather's book, Bad Mormon, tells the story of how the show started, and it said it was built around Lisa. So I'm not really sure what's up, because a lot of times on these shows, they're not Real Housewives shows. Like, I don't think they knew it was a Real Housewives show in the beginning. Even if the producers knew that that's what it was going to be, Lisa was apparently trying to shop some show, and so maybe they combined a bunch of shows that they had into one, just like, how many Salt Lake City people do you have? I mean, Salt Lake City really has had a good few years, because they also have a couple of the Netflix home shows. They have those white people doing big farmhouse things that are all painted white. What's that one? Remember? It's like
It's not the home edit. It was like Dream Home or something like that, or like Welcome to Your Mormon Dream Home.
Yeah, and then there's the other one, the home edit, with the girls who are like, we're sisters. Wait, is that home edit?
Home edit was Reese Witherspoon, and
it was her closet, right?
Yeah, and the ladies were like, arrange everything into a rainbow.
Oh God, no! The sisters I'm thinking of are HGTV, those twin sisters who are like, curb appeal. We're gonna change your whole house. Am I right, sis? And she's like, yeah. She's real good with ideas, and I'm real good with crayons. And then they go in and they just shit all over these houses, and they're like, mission accomplished. See, do you know what I'm talking about?
No, but I'm like, I want to watch.
You know what you need in your driveway? Gravel. Am I right, sis? She's like, yeah.
Instead of gravel, we replace all the rocks with little pellets of gabapentin.
I still say, I know we've got a lot that we can't even cover on Bravo, but God damn it, we need an HGTV podcast.
I know, it's true.
Okay. So the producers basically say a bunch of stuff. I don't know that I really believe in this. But I do thank them for everything that they've given us, because God, that show is just beautiful. Someone else who needs to be thanked for their contribution, Monica's mother, Linda, who I always go to Twitter after every episode to see what Linda has said. It's never anything I think too explosive. She just tries to come on and kind of stand up for herself against whatever Monica is weaving. This week it is, everything Monica says about me is a lie or half-truth. I never applied/auditioned. Not season 4, not ever. I am an award-winning journalist and TV producer, and that was the TV job in New York City. News journalist/producer. I already had the job. Reality TV is not my cup of tea. And then she posts a screenshot of some text between her and Monica to prove her case from February 16th, 2023, where the mom is saying, I know they don't need me. And Monica, who's named A. Affluence Monica, says, I do. I need you. And she said, I want to be there for you, Monica, but I'm not selling my soul. And Monica later in another screenshot says something like, but we're going to promote our culture, the Portuguese people. So she's like begging her mom to do it, which, she wanted to bring her mom on to make a crazy mom storyline. But
wow. I am
use what you got.
I am thrown by this concept that Linda is a news journalist/producer. Like, this is I can't even imagine a news journalist/producer naming themselves LD Millionaire on Twitter. Like, this is Like, what show was she? What was it, like, hard copy? Like, what was it that she was a producer on?
I don't know. She didn't say. I would Google, but do you think that it'll even show up? I don't know. I don't want to Google right now because I feel like I'll go down a hole. Could I have done it earlier? Sure. I did not though. I don't really know, but she cray.
She is. I love her. She's probably a terrible mom, but I love the idea of Linda in our lives.
So the next thing up is the lawsuit that we heard about on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Finally, even though the internet had been talking about it for a while, we found out this last reunion when Monica is squealing about, "I've never sued anybody. What are you talking about?" After Angie, the Greek robot, was like, "You sue everybody for money," or whatever. And she's like, "I do not." And then Heather said, "You're suing me."
Right.
And so we find out about this lawsuit where Heather is suing Monica for unpaid bills. Monica countersued Heather for botched lip injections that she had to go get redone somewhere else. Even though there were texts to prove that Monica actually loved the work and kept writing back to the lady who did the work or whatever. So that lawsuit against Beauty Lab has been dismissed. Because of, let me see, what do they call it? Statute of limitations. They dismissed January 17th after reviewing all corresponding pleadings. The court dismissed her case since her claim is time barred by the statute of limitations. And Monica failed to obtain a certificate of compliance from the Division of Professional Licensing. Man.
Wow. Well, I was excited to see where that was going to go. I was not expecting it just to get thrown out because of the statute of limitations.
Yeah, those statute of limitations are a bitch, right?
Yeah.
There's another lawsuit I was just reading about today that came up. I forgot what it was, so helpful.
Well, the article says Monica won't give up because prior to the court dismissing her lawsuit, Monica held depositions with 2 estheticians, not anestheticians, just estheticians. I don't want Anne Marie to get excited here. At the other company that allegedly corrected her botched lip injections. So
and look what they're called.
Rumors.
Rumors.
You want to talk about the rumors and the husband?
They're RUMA, Ruma Aesthetics. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Including the documents that were to be produced at the time were copies of all the records of procedures by Ruma Aesthetics. But, however, after attempting to seek the recordings, the U.S. Sun was made aware that by the court that depositions are private and can't be released. Monica filed a motion for protective order to essentially not have to disclose private information that's unrelated to the case. She requested the following be left out of the case: her health care providers, her Medicare health insurance information, her employees from the past 5 years. That's weird, right? Copies of bills and statements, investigative reports, and so forth. She requested this for various reasons, such as she was never treated by a healthcare provider to correct the defective cosmetic lip plumping procedure. There are no investigative reports, and she doesn't claim lost wages due to this.
Wow. Rose Fitz on Instagram says Monica's going all the way to the Supreme Court. It sure is. Let's take this to the top because that's where it goes. It goes all the way to the top. That would literally be my dream.
They would probably do it. Our Supreme Court's really firing on all cylinders these days.
Hey, if Anna Nicole Smith can make it to the Supreme Court, I think Monica definitely can.
Okay.
Let's see
what else?
I mean, most of this stuff this week is about Monica, etc. There was a Larsa, by the way. Well, here's one I was about to say something about Larsa and the traders, but I don't want to spoil things for our audience if they haven't watched yet. But so instead, let's talk about, no surprise here, Nene Leakes tells paparazzi cameras that Bravo has to get rid of half the Atlanta cast, but she will not name names on who should go. But
that's Nene. She likes to keep it subtle, Nene.
Yeah,
she doesn't really like being rude to people publicly. So,
do we think it's time for Nene to come back to Atlanta?
I don't know what I don't know. Look, I don't know. I'm never right about this stuff. I would say I would love to see it. but just because you really realize what you had once it's gone. You know, Nene really had a few horrible years there at the end, and she was going through a lot, and it doesn't seem like she's necessarily become more her old self again. So I don't know that I would love it if it actually came true, but I think I would love it because it's definitely needed something. But you know, like I said, I'm a big believer in getting rid of half the people and casting new. Like, why do we have to keep going back into the if we're going to keep these shows alive, we have to keep bringing fresh blood in. Bring in the fresh blood.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, now I actually do want to talk about Larsa because I never should have mentioned the traders because now people are like, you got to talk about the traders. So everyone has about 2 seconds. If you're not interested in the traders, you don't want to be spoiled, you got 2 seconds to put us on mute. But Larsa Pippen, she has an interview with Entertainment Weekly where they ask her about her experience on the show. And I just thought it was funny because Larsa Pippen is so Larsa. She's like acting as if she knew all along. You know, one of the questions was, you considered the Housewives your biggest allies on there. So what was your reaction when you found out Phaedra was the traitor? And she says, I kind of like had like a feeling like that she was like a traitor. And I actually said to her while walking down the hallway, a lot of people think you could be a traitor. She kind of fits the profile. And the reporter's like, and what was her reaction?
She was like, they do? And I'm like, yeah, they do. I love that she talks. She talks just like we say she talks. Like some people you really don't even have to make anything up for.
And then Sandra said that Larsa runs the Housewives. Was that true? I mean, I don't necessarily think I run the Housewives like. I think I'm probably more vocal like, but I was like mind boggled when I heard Sandra say that I had looked 10 to 12 years older than her. Like, she definitely needs to have her eyes checked on that one. Like, still bothered by that.
So they're like, do you think your problem was that you were too vocal? Do you think you should maybe have held back a little bit and fade into the background? And she's like, well, like my initial plan, like I feel like was not like to be like so vocal, but like once I got to the castle, I figured I could sway the group like, you know, I wish I could have kept some of my opinions to myself, but I just like had a gut feeling about like Dan, like I literally called him out on Larsa. You went for CT instead of Dan, insinuating that Dan wasn't really alpha enough. And it doesn't really count when you accuse literally every person. You know, it's like on this show, some people are like, Ronnie, you're psychic. You said that person was terrible. And then they turned out to be terrible. Well, yeah, I say everybody's terrible. I'm going to be right 80% of the time. It's just a numbers game, you know?
Exactly. Larsa, you don't get credit because you thought about Dan once over the course of 4 episodes. But glad to see that Larsa is still doing the Larsa thing.
Larsa is still Larsying. So did you read any of this stuff about, oh gosh, this is the Rachel podcast that
No. What's the latest?
So she has a podcast now produced by Bethany.
All right, get a job. All right, cheetah
course.
brand. Like literally,
Yeah.
this is like
Right,
literally
that's right.
cheetah brand because it's about a cheater. So it's a cheetah brand in a good way.
I think that she's producing it at iHeart under her umbrella or whatever. And
course.
basically every episode is her talking about another part of Scandoval. How long do you think she's going to be at like Richard Branson's, what do they call that? Like Missouri? Is it in Missouri? Like Richard Branson's Missouri, where he built all those little theaters, and like Debbie Reynolds does her vaudeville show. Well, she used to. R.I.P. Love you, Debbie. You know, where
Like the
like all the
Ozarks?
like all the older stars from yesteryear come and do their show. It's like, anyway,
Yeah,
do you think
Branson,
she's going to be
Missouri.
doing that? Yeah, Branson, Missouri. Thank you. When she's going to be like in her 60s, do you think she's just going to be there like, and then there was the time that I made out with Schwartz at the pool. They made me do it.
I hope she's there. I hope she has a show in Branson and she walks on stage with a surfboard and then she just goes, and now here's something new you didn't know.
Whoa. I will never forget Rachel, the clip that we saw online of Rachel doing the beauty contest where she brings out that little surfboard and then stands on it and goes, whoa. Okay,
my goodness.
so she went on there and basically said that Schwartz knew from the very beginning that this was all going on. Tom Sandoval and her would meet at Schwartz's apartment because that was their safe space, guys. So he knew, and he was encouraging it to them to be honest with Ariana, but he knew the whole time, and she says a lot of other stuff. Honestly, and by the way, thank you to Vanderpod Recaps because I love you. I'm obsessed with the work you do, following all of these shows and recapping these shows so we don't have to watch them. Because there's a ton of these shows now. There's this one. There's Kristen's show with her boyfriend, Kristen Doty's show. Then there's Jax and Brittany's show, which is terrifying. Then there's Lala's show. Then there's Sheena's show. I mean, they do all of these shows, and I've never listened to one of them, but I can go on here and read every little thing about them. So thank you for your work, Vanderpod Recaps. Go follow them. But you can read stuff on there. I'm honestly exhausted. I don't know how somebody does this every day, listens to all of this Scandoval stuff. Are you tired? Aren't you tired? How do you feel?
It's a lot to take on. It was, and when we were talking before about how when we were making the ballots for the crappies, like just trying to remember all the stuff that happened in Scandoval earlier this year. It's like, oh my goodness, like it was hard to jog the memory because time has passed and there's been so much junk that's come through. So like we already take on so much stuff. I can't imagine taking on like Rachel's podcast too.
It's a lot.
On
It
top
is a
of
lot.
everything else.
And that is some dedication. It was interesting, though. I did read the Instagram post about it, and it was a nice, lengthy Instagram post with a lot of screenshots and stuff. So go check that out if you guys want to know what Rachel is saying. You know, it's a lot of stuff like her date with Peter. Really? Like, get a job. Okay, everybody, we are going to move over to the hanging out with people on Instagram Live portion of this show. If you want to be a part of that show, just join us every other Monday on Instagram Live at 5:30 Pacific time. YouTube, thanks for being with us. Everybody here on audio, thank you for being with us. We love you guys, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.